Hi, I'm Todd Henderson. Today I want to show you how to install the Amp Research Powersteps on the 2016 Toyota Tacoma. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so where we're going to start is on the inside of the driver's side frame rail. We're just behind our cross member. We're going to go to where our brake lines connect to the frame rail. We're going to remove that bolt with a 12mm socket. All right, now we're also going to need to release this. That happens on the opposite side of the frame. Let me show you how to release that without breaking that. Squeeze the clips together so we can pull it right through the frame. We're going to do that not just with the first one, but we're also going to skip the second one, go directly to the third one, and pull that one through the frame rail as well. Okay, so right next to where we pulled that brake line retainer through, we're going to find the large hole here. We're going to get our motor linkage. This is going to have the gear on it. Make sure you have that. We're going to put it, line up the threaded hole to here. The bracket is going to hang on top of the frame. So line that up like so. All right, so what we're going to use is our step shim, our spring washer or lock washer, and an M12 bolt. I'm going to go right up through here. All right, and now as you tighten this bolt up, you're going to want to make sure that your step shim is on the flat surface of the frame. And only put it in finger tight at this point. All right, next we're going to install our drill template. We've got a wire cable or wire harness that's coming along here on the outside of the frame rail. Now we're up towards the front of the frame again on the driver's side, just under, by the cross member. We've got this oval-shaped hole. We're going to go just behind that oval-shaped hole. Our template's going to slide up in here. We're going to bend at 90 degrees, right where it says to bend that, so it can hang on top of the frame. That locates us properly on the frame. Now we're going to make sure that our template comes all the way up to this portion of the frame that is sitting out, and we're going to put that in place securely with a little bit of tape. All right, so we're going to go ahead and center punch this, then we'll remove our template and use the center punch location to start drilling our holes. Now we're going to use the 1/8 inch drill bit to go ahead and do our pilot hole. Now we're going to step up a few sizes incrementally until we get to our final hole size of 9/16. Okay, so now we've pulled away the wire harness from where it was attached to the frame. We cleaned up the hole that we drilled, and we also prepped it with some paint. Now we're going to use the exact same hardware for the last bracket, and we're going to install the idler linkage. That's the linkage without the gear on it. Next to our rear bracket, we've got our brake line harness that we popped out of the frame. I already removed the larger tube from that bracket. What we're going to do is pull that back now and install our standoff. Our standoff on one side of the standoff does not have threads in the hole. The other side it does have threads. The unthreaded portion we're going to snap into that brake line bracket. And then we're going to line it back up to the hole that it went through, and then use our supplied bolt to go from the outside of the frame into that standoff to keep that in place. All right, next we're going to use a 3/16 Allen wrench to tighten that down. Next we need to mount the boards to the brackets. What we're going to do is we turn that board over. Installed inside the board, we've got this linkage that will slide back and forth. We're going to fasten that to these brackets, flipping that over, lining it up. And from the bottom, we'll install our supplied Allen head bolts. We're going to use a 3/16 to get them started. Then we can adjust the placement of the board. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the rear of the board back 18 inches away from the edge of the linkage. Ours looks pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and tighten those Allen bolts down with a 3/16 to 10 foot-pounds. Next, we're going to go ahead and tighten down our linkages with a 19 millimeter to 40 foot-pounds. All right, now tightening down the front bracket, there's really no easy way about it. The best tool we were able to get in here to tighten down was a 3/8 inch drive, just a straight ratchet and 19 millimeter socket. And it's just short turns in order to tighten it down. And we want to get that to 40 foot-pounds as well. Now we're going to go ahead and replace all our brake line fasteners. Tighten it up with a 12 millimeter. Now what we need to do is we need to insert the gear for the motor directly into the motor linkage. Now we're going to be using this hole and this hole to line up, but in order for it to line up properly, we're actually going to need to clock it 1 gear rotation this way. Then we can insert it into the gear, and then we can push the step. Once the holes line up, then we can insert our provided screws. All right.
Oh, no, I can't see it.
We're going to tighten that down with 4 millimeter Allen. Okay, so the passenger side is going to install pretty much the exact same way as the driver's side, other than the fact that we're not going to have to deal with the brake lines in the way. We're again going to drill the hole and protect that up the front for the front bracket. The main difference is that the rear bracket is going to get the idler linkage and the front bracket will get the motor linkage. All right, so we've already removed our fuse from the fuse holder. We're going to go ahead and attach our cable from our harness to the positive side of the bracket. We're going to remove this bolt with a 12 millimeter. Next, with a 10 millimeter, we're going to remove the bolt that holds the negative terminal or the negative cable to the body. So now we're going to attach the negative terminal from the amp harness to where the battery grounds to the body. Okay, now our main harness divides out into two sides. We've got the shorter side, which has the green and pink trigger wires. That's the driver's side. The longer side, we're going to set to the other side. This has got the pink and red trigger wires. We're going to go ahead and run this down around the brake booster, down underneath the vehicle. Okay, now our controller is actually going to zip tie to this cable harness right here. So before we do that, we're just going to go ahead and run our wires, make sure we got plenty of slack in the places we need it, and then we'll go back and reattach everything with zip ties. All right, the passenger side portion of the harness is going to go across the firewall like so. And we're going to feed this down on this side of the engine compartment. Okay, now on the driver and passenger side, we're going to go into the front doors. We're going to pull up the door sill plate. Once we have that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and remove the fastener that holds the kick panel in place and pull that out of the way. Let's come out the side. All right, next, in order to pull the carpet up, we need to remove this white bracket from these pieces here. Now I can pull the carpet back. We need to get to this plug. We're just going to pop that out. Now you're going to notice this, this loom is dropping down from the engine compartment right next to the catalytic converter. So we need to keep it away from there. We're on the inside of the frame rail. We need to actually tuck it over the frame and get on the outside of the frame rail. Draw the whole loom through there. Where I'm actually pulling this through is right at the wheel well. Once we get that carefully pulled through, then we're going to follow this harness right here and push our wires through like so. All right, once we've got the point where the trigger wires are coming through, we're going to place those trigger wires up over top of the frame right at this point. And then we can go into the cab and draw those through that hole. Now, as we were fishing those wires over top of the frame rail, we were fortunate enough where actually one of the wires came through the hole. If it didn't come through the hole, that's fine, but you do want to grab those wires. I'm using a little pick tool. I'm just going to pull them right through that hole, pull them all the way through. Next, what we're going to do is the grommet that covers that hole in the floor panel. We're going to slice that so we can run these wires through that hole in the grommet. Now that should seal off pretty well, but if you wanted to add a little bit of silicone to that, now would be a great time to do so. All right, now on our pinch weld, we're going to measure back from the very front of the pinch weld 20 inches and mark that in the pinch weld. That's going to be right in front of the front bracket, and then go to 57 inches is right behind the back bracket and mark that. Once we've got those locations marked, we're going to take a center punch and we're going to make a little mark. Next, we're going to use a pilot drill bit. I go with an 1/8 inch and then step it up to a 9/32. Now we're going to drill the rest of the holes out the exact same way. Okay, now first thing we're going to do above each one of these holes is we're going to wipe down the rocker panel with some rubbing alcohol. That way we can adhere the LED light post into place. Now we're going to go ahead and install our rubber grommets into that hole. All right, so a real quick and easy way to install your lamps is to take and squirt a little bit of silicone lubricant on a pick tool and then push that through your grommet. And what that does is that's going to lubricate your grommet so that the wires push through without actually pushing the grommet through. Peel away your 3M tape backing and then attach that to the rocker panel. Press down, hold on to it for about 10 seconds to make sure you get good adhesion. Let's repeat the same process for all 4 of the lamps. All right, now off of our main harness, each place where we have a lamp, we're going to have a red and black wire coming off. We're going to strip just a little bit of wire. Next, we're going to crimp on our butt connectors. Pull down the wires coming off of the lamp, remove the insulation off of those. We're going to connect red to red and black to black. Activate the heat shrink that down to the wires. Okay, now that we've got everything done, we went back and taped everything up from the loom all the way up to the cable coming out of the lamp. Just want to make sure that everything is as watertight as possible. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and attach the harness to the motor. Next we're going to take this U-shaped grommet and insert the motor housing cover over top, slide that into the spot that it's designated for, and slide the motor housing over top, and we're going to line up the holes from the motor housing cover onto the motor housing itself. We're going to use these pins and fasten them together just like so. We're going to use 2 pins for each cover. All right, so what we're going to need to do is open up this wire loom and find some wires to tie into. So we're going to very gently pull on this clip. Now we're going to make sure that we cut the tape that holds the loom together right along the seam on the loom. Be very careful not to actually cut into wires that loom is protecting. All right, so now what we're going to do is attach our trigger wires to the wires that go to the doors. Now for the rear door, we're going to have a pink wire that we're going to attach to. Now we've got a couple of pink wires that are the same size, and it's just going to be a trial and error to make sure you get to the right one. As far as the yellow wire, we're going to go to the thinner of the 2 yellow wires in this harness. The way we attach the S-tap is you're going to unscrew the ends off of the S-tap. Now the gray end has got a little slit in the threads. You're going to run that through your wire, and then you're going to screw in the S-tap into those threads. Now these are threaded differently, so only one's going to work. One side is going to work, so you can't reverse it. What that does, that penetrates that wire to give you connection inside the S-tap. Then what we're going to do is strip a little bit of wire off of the end of your pink trigger wire, and then slide that into your S-tap. It's only going to slide in as far as until it hits the insulation, then it won't slide in any further. Then what we're going to do is push that into the S-tap, and once it's making contact, we're going to hold it in place as we turn the base piece into the S-tap. Okay, now on the passenger side, what we're going to do is we're going to look for a solid purple. There are 2 solid purples that are exactly the same size, so it's just going to be a trial and error on that to see which one is the correct one. And then on your solid green, you've got 1 solid green that's a slightly different shade of all the rest of the solid greens, and that's the one you're going to tap into. Now we've gone ahead and attached the controller into the harness and plugged in the fuse so we can test everything. Now before we put anything together inside the truck, we're going to go ahead and test each one of the doors. Open the door, close the door, give it a few seconds. The step will retract back, go all the way around the truck that way. Well, we went ahead and we zip tied all the wire harnesses in place. We went underneath the truck, zip tied everything, got everything all nice and cleaned up. Well, that concludes the installation. If you have any questions, call the experts. We're here to help you out.